Emotional upheavals, language, career disruption, parenting, relationships, and daily life. All of those are very common challenges that I see in my clients at China Expat Spouse. Hi and welcome. My name is Julie Marks, and I am the original China Expat Spouse. I welcome you warmly to this episode of the China Expat Spouse podcast. So I already mentioned the main challenges that we'll be talking about. We'll be looking at what are the emotional upheavals that come along with becoming an accompanying partner to China. We'll look at how does language knowledge or lack thereof impact how your time in China goes. What do you do about career disruptions and how do you deal with those? What are the challenges that come up when you're parenting a kid in China? What about your relationship with your partner? Will that take a toll? And the last one is daily life, meaning if you have dietary restrictions, if you have healthcare challenges, or in general, how do you navigate food and health in China? Let's start by mentioning the emotional challenges that expat spouses in China can face. I think the biggest ones are probably culture shock, isolation, and identity crises. So culture shock is probably the most obvious one, the one that people think of, because China is seen as a quite scary place by a lot of people who haven't been. So going there for the first time, people expect there to be culture shock. The second one, which is isolation, is not quite as obvious. So the working partner, the expat, the person who was sent to China, has a pretty good support network already built in because they have colleagues, they have teammates, they have maybe a personal assistant, they have people who, whenever they face issues, can help. But then also their structure to the day is quite set. They go to work at a certain time, they come home at a certain time, and they have working hours in between. When you are an accompanying partner, that is not a given. If you don't have a job lined up yet, then you need to figure out how to organize your time. Searching for a job in China is not easy, especially if you don't speak the language. It's not a given that anyone who goes to China is also allowed to work in China because you need a work permit under your own steam. You are not automatically eligible for work just because your partner is. So there are a lot of challenges in and of themselves in that part. But that's not even the worst of it, because sometimes the worst of it is that you are alone, all gray. If you have kids, the kids are at school, and they're at school a lot longer than in some other countries that I could name, and your partner is at work, and that's what they're there for. But you don't have that yet. And so you need to figure out how to go out and meet people or how to be content with not meeting people and not feeling lonely. And the third one is identity crisis. Many expat spouses that I know are completely changing who they are once they arrive in China because they may come from a very high-powered career background and figure out that they're not allowed to work in China, or they figure out that they don't want to work in China for whatever reason. But then if they're not working, who are they? Is it enough for them to just be a parent or a spouse and take care of their family? Or is there something else that they would like to be doing? And if so, what is that something else? So for all of these questions or for all of these challenges, it can be very, very helpful to have a support network. And that support network is not necessarily built in unless you're working with China Expat Spouse, then it is. We have a lot of groups that support our non-working partners. We also have groups that help with job support or job search, and just having a pre-assignment workshop and being aware of those issues is also very helpful to many of the partners. Oh yes, the language. So the struggle is real. Communication in Chinese is hard. You have different dialects in different areas. Just Mandarin in and of itself is not an easy language to learn. But it is really, really, really important that you at least try mastering the basic. One reason is if you are looking for a job, then even a tiny little bit of Mandarin would be a huge asset because the Chinese economy is struggling at the moment and they don't really see the need to employ foreigners. So if you are looking for a job, being able to say that you speak at least conversational Chinese is very much needed, I would say. Another reason is that for basic interactions, it is definitely better if you know how to communicate. There are a lot of different options to taking Mandarin lessons, classes. You can choose one-on-one, you can look for small group classes, there's online options, there's apps. I've written a whole article on things that can help you in your language learning, so I'll link to that in the description box below. But either way, whether you want to work or not, I highly recommend that as an expat spouse in China, you learn the language. Career disruption. This is a huge issue for a lot of my clients, a lot of the expat spouses in China that I work with, because this loss of professional identity is a big deal. And it's always easy for the working partner who has a continuation and possibly even acceleration of their career with this move to China. But for those who are quote unquote tagging along, this is not the case. Also, China is notorious for not automatically giving work permits. You need to apply for a work permit by yourself. Even if your partner is already working in China, you don't automatically get the right to work. Work permits are a whole different story, and I can do a video on that if there's need. They are complex, they are complicated, they're tedious, but they're necessary. And also, there's only a limited number of work permits available. What do I mean by that? Technically, anyone can get a work permit if they fulfill certain criteria. But the reality is that the Chinese economy is struggling at the moment. And so there may not be 20, 30, 40 jobs for you to choose from. So you may have to find a creative workaround, meaning potentially starting your own business. That's what I did. Or you could start an online venture that is portable so that no matter what the next step in your partner's career is, you are okay because you have something that you can take with you. Another workaround that some of my clients have done is starting something completely new, like becoming an author, writing a book, or changing their complete career trajectory by further education. So they use their time in China creatively in that they changed their career paths and they maybe did a master's degree online, or they did something else that they had always wanted to do and never really had the guts to start. Others focus on volunteering. There's many, many different options, and I have some wonderful, wonderful examples from past clients of mine who have really made their time in China count. But it is definitely a challenge, and it is a challenge that needs to be met, and one of the best things to do that is by coaching. So if you're interested, head over to China Expat Spouse. Raising kids in China is definitely a challenge. The education system is very likely quite different from the one in your home country. There are language barriers for the kids and for you with teachers and so on and so forth. And also parenting styles are not at all the same in China and in many other countries that I could name. So let's look at the education system differences. In China, the education system prioritizes rote learning, and that's very much needed because if you want to learn Chinese, you better put in the time to learn the characters, to pronounce tones correctly. There are so many reasons why the Chinese education system is the way it is, not the least of which is because of the language itself. But that also means that if your child is to go to a Chinese school, the requirements for the students will be very different to what your child is used to, probably. Also, when we're looking at language barriers, of course, this is one thing is in school, and if your child is going to international school, that may be not quite as difficult, unless your child's first language is not English, but then that's yet another issue, another hurdle to be taken. But it's in school and also out of school, because finding friends is going to be difficult if your child is the only foreign child and all the other kids are Chinese, and they don't speak any English, your kid doesn't speak any Chinese. All of these you need to take under consideration. And the third one, parenting style. Chinese parents, well, I should say Chinese grandparents, have a different way of bringing kids up. Because in China, most of the time, kids are not brought up by their parents, they're brought up by their grandparents. The parents work and the grandparents devote their lives to raising their grandkids. So that means that the generation that is raising kids in China is different from the generation that is raising kids in many other countries. But also, there is a heavy emphasis on the one hand on obeying. So physical punishment is very common. Also, there is very much an emphasis on indulgence that I don't see that way in many other countries. It's an interesting contrast and something that probably merits a whole other video. If you're interested, let me know in the comments down below if you would like me to do a video on that. Another challenge that many of my clients, many of the expat spouses I coach in China face are relationship issues. And mainly I would say, again, there are three. One is the issue of dependency, because you used to be your own person, you used to have your own career, have your own life, have your own identity. And once you follow somebody else for their job to another country, all of this changes. So especially in the beginning, if you don't have a job lined up, if you don't earn your own way, then it may be hard to feel like you're dependent on your partner. And also for those clients of mine who are working in China, some of them don't earn quite what they used to earn in their home country. And so it still feels like they are dependent on their working partners for everything, to the point of having to ask for pocket money if they want to do anything, or having to tell the partner about expenses that they're planning. A second issue that I see is that very often there's an uneven social integration. So the working partners have their team around them. They already know some locals because they're working with locals. And they have team events, they have business dinners, they have other things that are organized by the company. So they already have a social network all ready for them that is right there. So that can be very helpful, but such is not the case for the non-working partner. So for the expat spouses that I coach who are not working for whatever reason, a very big emphasis in the coaching is usually on how they can build up their own social network, how they can build up their own circle of friends, how they can become themselves again with their own lives. With all of these issues, I believe that open communication in the relationship is paramount. Because if one partner is unhappy and doesn't tell the other partner about it, chances are this will affect everything. It will affect romance, it will affect the life that they build together. All of it will be affected by it. So open communication is key. And again, during a lot of the coaching sessions, those become goals or those become topics that my clients want to discuss, because it really impacts how they are spending their time in China, how they are making that time count. Daily life in China can be a challenge, especially if you have dietary restrictions, if you are a vegetarian, if you're vegan, if you eat halal. All of those can be catered to, but you need to do your research before you go. There are also a lot of WeChat groups for vegans. There are WeChat groups for where do I find the best restaurant that caters to gluten-free, for instance. And also when it comes to requirements that you have for diet, e-commerce, Taobao specifically, is probably your best friend, because nowadays you can order pretty much anything online that you would get outside of China as well. So those might be interesting for you to check out. And also WeChat support is definitely invaluable for those issues. The same goes for healthcare. If you have healthcare challenges, make sure that you do your research beforehand. You figure out what you need. If you need help getting around, for instance, not every location in China will be set up for it. You may want to look into what the location you are going to offers in the way of the specific requirements that you have. If you're interested in finding the right medical insurance as an expat in China, I've made a whole video and I can link that down in the description box or up here. I don't know how that works yet. I'm still learning YouTube, but I will try and give that information to you as well, so you can check that out. And make sure that you find a doctor you trust. Make sure that you understand how the medical system works when it comes to public hospitals, private hospitals. More on that again in the other video. And for all of it, it is important for you to have trusted contacts. You want to make sure that you have local friends or China expat spouse, I suppose. Try and find people who can give you trusted information on how you're going to navigate those issues. Thank you for sticking with me through all 6 challenges that we discussed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, whatever it's called. Give it a thumbs up if you did like it. Leave a comment, maybe on which challenge you have faced or which one surprised you, or did I miss one, an important one that you think we should add into the list? Let me know below. And I hope to see you again soon, next time, for the next episode of the China Expat Spouse podcast.